Listen, this Coast Guard captain had been patrolling coastal waters for 15 years, rescuing pleasure boaters and enforcing maritime law with steady dedication. But when a nuclear submarine suffered catastrophic failure 200 feet below the surface, with 129 crew trapped inside, what he did next revealed why someone with his background chose surface maritime work, and why his understanding of submarine operations ran deeper than anyone imagined. Coast Guard Station San Diego operated some of the busiest rescue waters on the West Coast, covering everything from recreational boating accidents to drug interdiction operations along the Mexican border. The station's area of responsibility included 3,500 square miles of ocean, where pleasure craft, commercial vessels, and military ships operated in close proximity. Captain Michael Reynolds had been commanding Coast Guard operations for 15 years, leading search and rescue missions, environmental protection operations, and maritime law enforcement that kept coastal waters safe for civilian traffic. His cutter, USCGC Resolute, was a 210-foot medium-endurance vessel capable of extended offshore operations. Captain Reynolds was known for his calm leadership during complex rescue operations, his understanding of maritime weather patterns, and his ability to coordinate multiple agencies during emergencies that required precision timing and flawless communication. His crew respected his seamanship and his knack for finding solutions when standard procedures weren't adequate. What made Captain Reynolds exceptional as a Coast Guard officer wasn't just his surface vessel expertise or his knowledge of rescue protocols. It was his three-dimensional understanding of ocean operations, his comfort with high-pressure environments, and his ability to think tactically when lives hung in the balance under extreme conditions. His Coast Guard colleagues assumed this expertise came from 15 years of surface maritime operations and perhaps merchant marine experience. They had no idea it came from 12 years as a Navy submarine officer, commanding nuclear-powered attack submarines in some of the world's most dangerous underwater operations. Commander Michael Reynolds had served aboard USS Virginia-class attack submarines, conducting intelligence-gathering missions, anti-submarine warfare operations, and strategic deterrent patrol. Captain Reynolds had earned his Dolphins, the submarine warfare insignia, after qualifying on all submarine systems and proving his ability to handle emergency situations that could arise hundreds of feet underwater. His specialty had been damage control and emergency surfacing procedures, the skills that kept submarines operational when everything went wrong. Reynolds had left submarine service not because he couldn't handle underwater operations, but because 12 years of submerged duty had been enough. He wanted to use his maritime skills to rescue people rather than hunt enemy vessels, to serve on the surface where he could see sky and breathe fresh air. Coast Guard duty had seemed perfect, using his understanding of complex maritime operations to save lives rather than take them, to protect civilian mariners rather than eliminate enemy threats. For 15 years, it had been exactly the service he needed. Until Tuesday morning at 10:47 a.m., when his two careers collided 200 feet below the surface of the Pacific Ocean. Captain Reynolds was conducting routine patrol operations 20 miles southwest of San Diego when the emergency call came through on submarine rescue frequency, a communication channel that most Coast Guard vessels monitor but rarely use. Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. This is USS Hartford, nuclear submarine, experiencing catastrophic system failure at depth 200 feet. Approximate position 32 degrees 30 minutes north, 117 degrees 45 minutes west. All emergency blow systems inoperative. Request immediate assistance. USS Hartford was a Los Angeles-class attack submarine with 129 crew members aboard. According to the initial distress call, the submarine had suffered simultaneous failures of its ballast tank blow systems,
backup emergency surfacing equipment, and primary life support systems, while conducting training operations in deep water. Captain Reynolds processed the emergency information using knowledge gained from 12 years of submarine operations. Los Angeles-class submarines carried enough emergency life support for approximately 18 hours if all systems failed. Hartford had been submerged for 6 hours when the emergency occurred, leaving maybe 12 hours before carbon dioxide poisoning would begin killing the crew. Standard submarine rescue procedures involved.
Reynolds immediately coordinated with Navy submarine rescue authorities, but what he proposed wasn't standard procedure. Using his understanding of Los Angeles-class submarine design and emergency systems, he believed Hartford could be brought to the surface using a combination of external assistance and internal emergency procedures that required precise coordination. Coast Guard Resolute, this is Navy Submarine Rescue Command. We have deep submergence rescue vehicles en route. Estimated arrival, 22 hours. Submarine Rescue Command, this is Captain Reynolds aboard Resolute. Hartford doesn't have 22 hours. I'm proposing emergency surface assistance using external ballast tank pressurization. Captain Reynolds, that procedure isn't authorized for Coast Guard vessels. I'm qualified on Los Angeles-class emergency systems. Served 12 years submarine duty before transferring to Coast Guard. I know how to do this. There was a pause in radio communication. Captain Reynolds, confirm you hold submarine warfare qualifications? Confirmed. USS Virginia, SSN 774. USS Texas, SSN 775. Qualified Officer of the Deck, Submarine Emergency Procedures Specialist. The revelation that a Coast Guard captain held submarine warfare qualifications changed the entire rescue operation. Reynolds wasn't just another surface vessel commander. He was someone who understood Hartford's systems better than most of the rescue coordinators. For the next 8 hours, Captain Reynolds orchestrated a submarine rescue operation that required understanding both surface rescue techniques and underwater emergency procedures. Using USCGC Resolute's capabilities in ways the vessel had never been tested, he coordinated with Hartford's crew to execute emergency surfacing procedures. Reynolds guided Hartford through a series of ballast tank blow attempts using emergency compressed air systems that could be activated from inside the submarine. When those failed, he positioned Resolute to provide external assistance using techniques adapted from submarine tender operations. Hartford, this is Resolute. I need you to attempt emergency ballast tank venting through your forward torpedo room escape trunk. We're going to provide external pressure assistance using our salvage pumps. Resolute, our torpedo room escape trunk is at 200 feet depth. Your pumps can't reach that depth. Hartford, I'm not talking about your escape trunk for personnel evacuation. I'm talking about using it as... What Reynolds was proposing required understanding submarine systems that most surface mariners never encounter. He was essentially turning USCGC Resolute into a submarine tender, using Coast Guard equipment for purposes it hadn't been designed for. The rescue technique Reynolds implemented required precise timing and understanding of how submarine ballast systems interact with external pressure assistance. Using salvage equipment adapted for underwater operations, Resolute provided the additional compressed air pressure that Hartford needed to blow its ballast tanks and achieve emergency surfacing. Resolute, we're showing positive buoyancy, called Hartford's commanding officer. Ballast tanks are blowing. We're beginning emergency ascent. Hartford, maintain controlled ascent rate. Monitor for nitrogen narcosis in crew members as pressure decreases. We'll have medical teams standing by on surface. Reynolds was essentially flying Hartford to the surface remotely, using his submarine experience to guide the emergency ascent while coordinating surface rescue operations. He understood the decompression issues that could affect Hartford's crew, the mechanical stresses of emergency surfacing, and the coordination required between surface and submerged vessels. 6 hours and 37 minutes after the initial distress call, USS Hartford broke the surface 400 yards from USCGC Resolute. All 129 crew members were alive. though several required medical attention for carbon dioxide exposure and decompression-related issues. The submarine rescue made military news. Coast Guard captain saves nuclear submarine using innovative rescue techniques. But details were classified due to the sensitive nature of submarine operations. Navy Submarine Force Commander Admiral Sarah Kim conducted the after-action review, trying to understand how a Coast Guard captain had successfully executed submarine rescue procedures that required specialized training and equipment. Captain Reynolds, what you accomplished today, using surface vessel equipment for submarine emergency assistance, where did you learn those techniques? Reynolds was updating rescue operation logs, documenting procedures that would need to be reviewed by both Coast Guard and Navy safety boards. Submarine Service Admiral, USS Virginia and USS Texas, 12 years active duty. Submarine Service? What was your final rank? Lieutenant Commander, Qualified Officer of the Deck. Reynolds smiled. Admiral, I spent 12 years underwater learning how to sink ships and hunt enemy submarines. Coast Guard duty lets me use those same skills to save lives and protect mariners. Today just happened to combine both skill sets. After the Hartford rescue, Reynolds received calls from Navy Submarine Command, defense contractors, and maritime rescue organizations. His demonstration of submarine expertise, combined with surface rescue coordination, had proven invaluable for maritime emergency operations. The offers were substantial. Return to submarine service with immediate promotion, consulting positions with submarine rescue development programs, training roles that would utilize his unique combination of submarine and surface vessel experience. Reynolds considered each opportunity carefully. They offered recognition, better compensation, and the chance to use his full skill set professionally again. I appreciate all the offers, Reynolds told his Coast Guard district commander, but I think I'm exactly where I need to be. The Coast Guard mission of saving lives and protecting mariners is what I want to spend my remaining years doing. Reynolds continued commanding USCGC Resolute, but his role had expanded to include coordination with Navy submarine rescue operations. His unique background made him a liaison between Coast Guard surface operations and Navy submarine rescue capabilities. 2 years after the Hartford rescue, Captain Reynolds had become the Coast Guard's unofficial submarine rescue specialist, training other Coast Guard officers in coordination with underwater emergency operations and developing protocols for surface vessel assistance to distressed submarines. His approach, combining surface rescue techniques with submarine emergency procedures, became part of joint Coast Guard-Navy training programs. Reynolds proved that maritime rescue required understanding both surface and underwater operations, that the most effective rescue coordination came from officers who could think in 3 dimensions. But Reynolds's greatest legacy was proving that submarine officers who transition to surface duty bring invaluable expertise to maritime rescue operations, that skills learned in underwater warfare could serve peaceful rescue purposes, and that the most important naval operations sometimes involve saving lives rather than taking them. So now I gotta ask you guys, have you ever thought about the Coast Guard officers who patrol our waters and conduct rescue operations? About what they might have commanded, where they might have